In India, the stark disparity in how celebrities, influential figures are treated by the judiciary compared to ordinary citizens of the country has repeatedly exposed deep cracks in the system's impartiality. There have been time and again examples of this, of high-profile individuals, actors, politicians, industrialists, all granted swift bail, their hearings coming up immediately. In some cases, if they needed to be, proceedings being delayed, even acquittals under dubious circumstances. All of this, you draw a contrast there, a comparison, and you'll see that the average citizen languishes in overcrowded jails awaiting trials for far less serious offences. That's exactly what's happened in this case with actor Darshan. Accused of murdering his fan in the most brutal manner, this sandalwood actor, this Kannada actor, has been granted bail months ago. There's been a mountain of evidence against him, a lot of it in public domain, photos, CCTV footage, not just confirming the brutal manner in which Renuka Swami was murdered by Darshan and by some of his aides, but also showing Darshan at the scene of the crime with his partner, co-accused Pavitra Gowda. But while this monster got regular bail from the Karnataka High Court for God alone knows what reason, it's the Supreme Court today that's pulled up the High Court and how. Thankfully, it's within the judiciary that there is a call for looking for introspection. Here's what the Supreme Court said. Let's put the focus really on some of the highlights of the objectives, observations essentially that the Supreme Court made while hearing this case. They were in clear disbelief that someone like Darshan, with the kind of grave charges against him, managed to get bail. They've asked, does the High Court actually dictate such orders in all bail pleas, questioning exactly what we've said. That, there's a clear discrepancy in how some cases are heard and some influential cases are heard. What's troubling us is the approach of the High Court. Let's put out, in fact, some of those pointers of the Supreme Court also saying, how can the High Court judge make such a mistake? Is this his understanding? So they've even singled out the judge in this particular case, asking, how could he have gone ahead and committed such a mistake? They're calling it a mistake that he was even granted bail. The Supreme Court also in extreme questions that have been raised of the High Court has said this is perverse exercise of discretion, saying clearly that this is one person's view that's essentially taken over the judgment of the High Court in granting regular bail. The Supreme Court has asked, has the High Court applied its mind judicially? That's our concern. And then they've said, we won't commit the same mistake the High Court made. We won't decide or provide any sort of judgment on acquittal or conviction. Now, besides that, the Supreme Court has also said, how can the High Court say there are no reliable witnesses? The order has now, and what we're putting out right now is why the High Court also granted Darshan bail. These are, in fact, the reasons why High Court granted Darshan bail last year in December 2024. We'll talk about that in just a bit. The order by the Supreme Court, and let's come back to images on your screens of Darshan. The order has now been reserved by the Supreme Court, but this has led to serious questions of whether Darshan, who enjoyed all kinds of VVIP perks in jail, which was exposed on camera. There was footage of him smoking inside the Parapana Agrahara Central Prison. Now, there are questions on whether he was unfairly released on bail, especially when he faces such serious charges of murder. Let me bring in Nagarjun Dwarkanath as well as Anisha Mathur joining us with more details on this. Anisha, I'm going to begin with you to kind of put the focus on what really the Supreme Court has said today. The top court has been extremely critical, many would say rightly so, of the Karnataka High Court's order.
Well, yes, clearly the Supreme Court has taken serious exception to what the Karnataka High Court has done, questioning how exactly in a murder case, in a bail hearing, the High Court went into the merits of the matter and examined evidences and witnesses. One major question that has been asked by the Supreme Court is that we will not make the same mistakes as the High Court. You explain to us when the evidence was there. There are photographs available. There is evidence that the person was there, the accused person was there. Then how exactly has the High Court looked into the examination of the evidence? Because in a bail case, what a High Court needs to look into is only basic prima facie evidence. The Supreme Court
Yep.
making a very, very critical comment that the manner in which the High Court has dictated its order is unacceptable, and that is why the Supreme Court is looking into this petition. Remember, the government had come to the court saying that the High Court order is completely incorrect, that the High Court has not appreciated the evidence, that the High Court has not looked into the conduct of the witnesses. In fact, the state also said that some of the key witnesses were found with the accused and occupying a stage with the accused, and that is something that raises serious red flags about the influencing of witnesses. Now, court says we are very serious when it comes to murder, and we will see only if the prosecution case aspires confidence or not.
No, rightly so. These are very serious allegations against Darshan. Nagarjun Dwarkanath is joining us with more on this. Repeatedly, there have been questions, Naga, of whether Darshan has used his influence as an actor to kind of go easy on the allegations against him. We've seen images from jail where you've seen smoking a cigarette. We saw him previously meeting with a top cop as well. Now that he's out on bail, this is regular bail. There are very few conditions really that have been slapped on him for getting this bail.
Well, that's true. VVIP treatment being given to Darshan actor in Karnataka is what we are told. The High Court has granted him bail based on medical conditions. But when he was in the prison, he used to complain of back pain, leg pain. He was unable to sleep in the prison. But the moment he got bail, he was unwilling to get a test done by the doctor, because the High Court also said that get a test done and give us a report. He was unwilling to get the test done, and later he took permission from the court to fly to Thailand for movie production and movie shooting. How is that possible? A person who was unwilling to be in the prison because of health reasons immediately became fine and went to Thailand to shoot for his upcoming movie. And now the Supreme Court has come down heavily on the High Court as to on what grounds the bail was given. And this seems to be a moral victory for the Bangalore police. The former commissioner who is suspended right now, Mr. Dayanand IPS, seems to get a moral victory out of this, because he consistently told the government when he was briefing the Chief Minister and the Home Minister that it's a credible case for Darshan to be convicted, and they have done a decent job collecting all the witness. It is not just a failure of the system when Darshan got a bail in the High Court, and hence he convinced the government to go on appeal to Supreme Court. And today we have seen the results when Supreme Court has observed on how High Court has given the bail, and they are unable to understand on what grounds they were giving bail to actor Darshan.
Okay, Naga, thanks very much for those details. Thanks, Anisha, also for joining us. Joining us on this broadcast now is Sanjay Sahai, former IPS officer. We've also got Ananya Krishna, advocate of the Supreme Court. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to begin with Ananya Krishna first on what's really played out in the Supreme Court. Many would say that this is the need of the hour. Ananya, if you've seen the details really that have emerged of the manner in which the Karnataka High Court granted bail to Darshan, it does leave several questions about whether, there was a go easy on Darshan.
I would like to first clarify that the question before the Honorable High Court of Karnataka was not that whether the actor Darshan or any of the accused were guilty or not. It was the question if those accused were necessary in the custody for the interrogation or for the trial to begin before the pre-trial mandates. The question arises as to why the High Court dealt on the merits of the case rather than why the bail was supposed to be granted in favor of the accused. And we can observe through the order of the High Court that the interim order and the reasons that were given in the interim order were not dealt with the final order.
Can you explain that further for us, Ananya, when you say that, the question here was about granting bail and yet you had the High Court going into the merits of the case. Did it seem almost like the Karnataka High Court was trying to declare whether he was guilty or not? Is it ultimately is that what happened in the Karnataka High Court?
No, this is the question of bail has become a right these days. I mean, in the Article 14, where everybody is treated equally before the law, even the accused, before he is convicted as guilty, is treated as innocent. And that is where the generosity of the courts begin.
No, that's understandable.
But in this particular case, was the generosity required? considering the heinous crimes that has happened and the witness tampering that has taken place before he was arrested, before the actor Darshan was arrested and arraigned as an accused, we have had statements of his co-accused wherein he is handed over money to them for them to go and surrender before the police that they are the main culprits of the case and hiding his name. And those monies have been recovered from a certain place.
So you raised an important point. Mr. Sanjay Sahai, I'd like to bring you in also on this. What makes this particularly worrying in this particular case, sir, is with Darshan out, the very question of whether witnesses can be influenced will be asked here, because there were so many others who are still part of the investigation. Evidence collection is still on, that it's shocking that he is out on bail with minimum conditions right now.
See, evidence collection is not on, but certainly he can influence the witnesses. I'll start with the first point. And the first point is that we are celebrating what the Supreme Court has talked about in today's hearing. For me, it is not a celebration, because Supreme Court comes with these caustic remarks every now and then in all the cases where this sort of a discrepancy, discretionary or otherwise happens. So in this case, if we come to, so there was a interim bail given on the 30th of October. What did the interim bail say? Interim bail talked about spine surgery and recovery. So from 30th of October till 24th of July, that to best of my understanding on the information available in the public domain, I have not found any evidence of this person or this accused having gone through this particular surgery, where there are enough evidence in the public domain which talks about certificates being created by Dr. Naveen of the BGS Global Hospital. So from there it starts. And having failed in literally the main bail condition of spinal surgery and recovery, he gets a regular bail on 13th of December, if I am right, 2024. It does not stop there. It is not only the issue of the High Court. The rod goes down. If you come to the permission given to travel, who gave the permission to travel? It was Bangalore City Civil and Sessions Court. So that is where we stand. And you see the whole background, how it operates. They have been playing around with the criminal justice system from day one. It starts with fake accused being produced. It starts from there. Then they played around with the whatever is the prison administration or whatever is left of the prison administration by that particular photograph. Then where we come to spinal surgery. A fellow who is requiring spinal surgery, say 10 months back, he is live and kicking all around the place. And whosoever is the trial judge, he is fine with the arguments which is being meted out. The most interesting argument is for his travel, that there is a necessity of foreign travel for that part of shooting of a movie called Devil. It was in Dubai, it was in Europe, it was in Thailand. Yep. Where all he has gone, he has not gone, we have absolutely no idea. So regular bail, literally it seems that it has no condition whatsoever. And this generosity part, I don't go by the generosity part of it. There is no generosity which can be part of a discretion of a judicial officer. Let's be very, very clear. Within 90 days, the case is charge sheeted. There is absolutely very little chance for a court to give bail. That is crystal clear in murder cases, and that is why this furor is. So at every single point
also,
in
Mr.
time,
Sahai, is, you know, when this case came to the fore, there was so much focus on the investigation, and the police did an amazing job. You know, there was a lot of question about the kind of pressure that they'd be under. They didn't give in to that pressure. They didn't buckle. They ensured a detailed investigation, a mountain of evidence against Darshan. All of it to culminate in what? In Darshan being out on bail. And let's highlight here that, yes, bail is a legal process. No one's questioning that. But Ananya Krishna, you know, when you have details like this emerging of this man saying he has a medical condition and so needs to undergo surgery, then gets permission to travel abroad, goes for film shoots, at that point, in such a circumstance, can the High Court actually intervene and say that, look, what we gave you and delivered bail on was something completely different. If you're traveling around, please go ahead and serve the punishment as well.
Yes, definitely. The High Court had to look into this. First thing, the interim order was given on the pretext of him needing a surgery. And during the deciding of the actual bail, the regular bail, the High Court had to question whether he had undergone the surgery or not, what is the status of his medical condition, because medical condition was the prima facie reason why actor Darshan was granted bail, and I condemn why this was not taken into the consideration during the actual bail hearing. And the second thing is, during the bail hearing, you cannot take a backdoor entry with medical records or medical conditions.
Yeah. I think we've lost Ananya there, but the point that she was essentially making is that ideally the High Court should have intervened in this particular case. You've granted bail in December, and one of the grounds was on medical conditions, and yet no action that was taken when Darshan has been gallivanting around the world. That's what's led to questions about whether, we've gone soft on him just because of his influence, just because he's an actor, in which case it's a sorry state of affairs right now in the country that we must fix, we must address. And hopefully now, with the Supreme Court stepping in, we will see some action taken against Darshan. And the fact that he's claimed all sorts of back issues but traveling around the world, surely that means that he's fit enough to also be at the central prison in Parapana Agrahara. I'd like to thank our panelists, Ananya Krishna and Mr. Sahai, for joining us here on India Today. And remember that one of the mentions by the Karnataka High Court while granting Darshan bail is that he's not had any sort of previous criminal record. And yet, what we're going to show you in our next report is how Darshan has had several brushes with the law. In the last 2 decades, his popularity graph skyrocketed, but so did his controversies.
Sandalwood superstar Darshan Togudipa, along with some close associates, were at a pub in Mysuru after midnight because the DJ played a song of another actor, Puneet Rajkumar, at the request of a guest named Yashwant. The superstar lost his cool. He started abusing the DJ and the guest, saying in his presence only songs from his films can be played. He even threatened them. An FIR was registered against his associates, but not the superstar himself, though police confirmed his involvement. This wasn't the first time. Darshan Togudipa is no stranger to controversies. In fact, his complicated married life and his rowdy behavior in public have earned him the title of Enfant Terrible of Kannada cinema. Within a decade of his first super hit, he was arrested and spent quite a few days in jail. He was charged with domestic violence. Darshan's marriage with Vijay Lakshmi was about 8 years old, and their son was a toddler when he was booked for attempted murder and assaulting his wife in 2011. But the couple buried the hatchet after mediation by several bigwigs of the industry. 5 years later, Vijay Lakshmi once again registered a police complaint against her husband for objectionable behavior. And once again, she reconciled and retreated. In 2018, Darshan, actor Devraj, and Darshan's friend Anthony suffered injuries when their SUV rammed a street light in North Mysuru. No casualties were reported and case was settled. In 2021, he was accused of physically assaulting a waiter at a Mysuru hotel by Indrajit Lankesh. Reports later suggested that the CCTV visuals were deleted and the incident was covered up, with the police compensating the waiter with 50,000 rupees. A year later, Bharat, a Kannada film producer, lodged a police complaint against Darshan for threatening him with dire consequences. But he too withdrew eventually. In January 2023, Forest Department officials raided Darshan's T. Narsipura farm on the outskirts of Mysuru, following a social media video where the actor is talking about the 4 bar-headed geese on his farm. Officials said the endangered bird was protected under the Wildlife Protection Act and the actor was possessing them in violation of the law.
Hey broker,
In November 2023, Darshan was accused of setting up his dogs to attack his neighbor. Reportedly, she had an argument with his caretaker over the parking space. An FIR was lodged, but as the neighbor was compensated with hospital treatment charges, the matter got resolved. Early 2024, Darshan was among several Kannada film stars who were issued notices by the police in connection with partying late into the night, in violation of the deadline, and creating ruckus at a posh Bengaluru pub. Darshan and the crew of Katira were celebrating the box office success of the film. The Katira star has been in and out of controversies too often, but none escalated to the level it has with the murder of Renuka Swami. Bureau Report, India Today.